Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and I want to thank you for joining us again. And for those that haven't, if you hit that subscribe button, you won't miss a single one of our episodes. Today, we've got Brenda with us. Brenda Clough. Hello. Good morning. Yeah, now you, Brenda, have written a bazillion books, maybe like I don't know, 30?
I think I'm actually informed that I'm the first female Asian science fiction writer in the United States. And we're
Woohoo!
sort
Well,
of,
I'll go for that one.
yeah, well,
Well,
that and
hey.
$5 gets you a coffee at Starbucks. But if someone was writing a paper and they said, can you think of anyone who's like was before you? And I ran around to people who are more knowledgeable about the history of the genre. And I said, well, what about Cecilia Tan? No, she's an editor. What about Amy Tan? Well, she really doesn't write science fiction except in a sort of marginal kind of a way. So anyway, they haven't been able to find a better contender so far. So that's kind of dimly cool.
Oh, that's great. And for those of you out there, you can see why she's such a good writer. She's animated, she's got energy, and she writes and puts that down into stories.
Mm.
Gosh, you write like a billion things.
It would be so much easier if I just wrote the same thing. If you could just like write, I don't know, like bodice rippers, 40 bodice rippers, that would be easier to market. But I'm
Scattered.
eclectic. And so I do different things and then I butterfly myself off to do something different. And so uh, that makes for difficulty in marketing, but by gosh, you're never bored. Uh, for a long time, I've been working in, I guess you would call it historical science fiction, which is simply
Hmm.
science fiction set in the past
Sure.
versus, and then there's historical fantasy like Game of Thrones,
Absolutely.
uh, or even like Harry Potter, with that Edwardian
Sure.
school kind of a thing. And a great deal of science fiction takes place in the future, and so we're sort of cool with that, Asimov rockets
Hmm.
going to
Hmm.
Mars. But then the set in the past is kind of more interesting, and it's for some reason I just seem to have gotten sucked into this, and so I uh, do this somewhat a lot.
Somewhat a lot. Yeah. And for a while. And
Yeah, yeah. What with one thing and another, I seem to be doing that.
yeah. Now you've lived all over the world. You've had
Mhm.
experiences that can tie into all those things. And you are both self-published and you've been published through traditional publishing, through Tor Publishing. And now a lot of your books through Bookview Cafe,
Mhm.
which is, I say, an ebook seller.
It's cooperative, so it's
Mhm.
sort of not exactly a uh uh just self-publishing, but on the other hand it's not really a traditional publisher. And
Mhm.
as you know, although all of my books are ebooks because I'm lazy, you can always grind ebooks out into paper format with the help of Amazon and Kindle and all these. I think even
Absolutely.
Ingram and Draft to Digital do it now, so
Yep.
it's everything's sort of blurring in this way. But for a long time we were one of the very first cooperative publishers in the in in existence. And so that's kind of interesting and fun.
Yeah. And you've got quite a pile of authors in Bookview Cafe. In
Hmm.
fact, Ursula K. Le Guin was one of yours
Hmm.
in there. And so that's a great way to do that. And it helps to have people to work with and through in publishing. Now, do they also offer, or do you have beta readers that way? Do you connect that way with them?
You can always ask people within the co-op to help you beta read, edit, or
Hmm.
proofread, but there's nothing to prevent you from going outside and getting your entire
Sure.
circle of friends to help you beta read. I've taught in writing workshops, and I always tell younger writers that it's not a bad idea to get as many beta readers as you can persuade to do
That's
this.
true.
And be kind to your beta readers, give them chocolate and thank them in the author's notes. But because uh, there's a fresh eye on the work is always useful. It's an unusual author who can look at her own writing with a completely cold eye.
Oh,
And there's
absolutely.
always things that you just think are okay, and then your eye just slides right over them. And then someone will point out something to you like, he lit a cigarette at the beginning of the paragraph, and then he lit another cigarette. So is he just like holding two, one in each hand? And you look at it and say, well, of course not. I better cut one of those sentences.
Yeah, and that's why you cannot or should not line edit your own work. You need somebody else to sit there and look through
Yes.
it. And it doesn't
Yes.
matter how well you do. You already know what the story is, so your eye sees something that may not be there or overlooks something that your brain already tells you the way it's supposed to be. So as in beta readers, and for those of you out there that follow my work, my new book Recalled is ready for that beta read. So if you're interested in doing beta reading for me, get a hold of me. Okay, we'll make that work. But back to your work, Brenda. So you've got a bunch of series out there. You've got The Thrilling Adventures of the Most Dangerous Woman in Europe, like 12 of those.
Yeah, yeah. Those were all sequel. They're actually sequels to The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, which was a bestseller in 1860. And it was intensely popular. Had one of those things, people would write music, the Woman in White waltz, that kind of a thing. And people would write fan letters to the publisher saying, is Marion really based on a real woman? And could I propose marriage to her? And it got really, really bad. And why Wilkie Collins did not write a sequel, I haven't the foggiest idea. It's obvious he should have. And darn it, when I realized that, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. So I
There
just
you go.
picked up that ball and ran it down the field. And those are actually almost purely historical until the very end, when finally the science fiction writer's hoof began to peep out from underneath the hoop skirt. And so I switched over and wrote sort of an allied, spriggy uh, uh, group of novels called the Cockeyed Optimist series.
Hmm.
And there's three of them, and they are all set in the 20th, latter half of the 20th century. I needed to get out of that Victorian thing. I'd gotten it perfectly. The speech patterns, verb use, uh, slang, everything. I had it perfect. And I knew if I didn't get out of this, I'd be stuck sounding
Yeah.
like Charles Dickens for the rest of my life. So I had to bail out. The first book in that little grouplet is called A Door in His Head. Grandview University was looking for works by persons of ethnicity that were different, and that's sort of what I do. This is very different.
It's
and
different.
and it is fantasy or science
Hmm.
fiction, depending on how you want to think about it.
That's right.
And then and so finally I was sort of able to get that going, and the second volume is titled A Deal in Her Pocket, and it is purely romance. The third volume just came out this past week, and it is titled His Salakian Majesty Requests. And it's set in 1979, and it's about sharks, drugs, and rock and roll. David Bowie and rock music, and the grave difficulties my heroes has with substance abuse. It haunts him from beginning to end. It nicely in its historical period, and I made my hero a rock star, so I didn't have to get the rights to quote all those lyrics. I'm very careful not to quote Jackson Brown
Hmm.
because my hero can listen to it, but I can't quote the lyrics without giving Jackson Brown money, and he doesn't need
That's right.
my money.
That's just a little bit different than from your Victorian era. So it is a shift in how you write, not just the
Uh-huh.
words, but your
Oh yeah.
methodology and how. Yeah.
It is there's a lyric. I never do anything twice. Really, I try never to do anything twice. And that I was able to write 12 Victorian thrillers is sort of an anomaly. Usually I suck it dry and then I move on. So that is okay. You have to do this.
Okay.
You have to keep on adding chambers to your Nautilus shell and
You
getting
do.
bigger and growing differently.
And you've got another trilogy, Edge to Center, River
Yeah, that
Twice,
one
Meet
is
Myself There, and The Fog of Time. Is that right?
that one is about time travel and alternate universes. There's there's things there's different theories about how time travel works. That's another thing I'm rather interested in, is time travel. But the question is, when you go into the past or if you go into the future, do you change it? And if it change, and you know, if you don't change it, then you're essentially uh like a drone floating around and looking at things, but not able to interfere in things in any way. And that's one way to write the
Hmm.
story, but it's kind of dull. It's much
Yeah.
more fun to arrive and get stuck in there, you know, push John Wilkes
Yeah,
Booth over the edge of the balcony in Ford's Theater, and he falls into the audience and breaks his neck. And Abraham Lincoln gives you that look and says, "Do you have a ticket?" And that would be nice, you know, that would be nice. Then, you know, then you get that butterfly dinosaur a gun for a dinosaur thing where do you change the future by changing the past?
yeah.
If Abraham Lincoln does not die, will 2025 look like it does right now?
Oh,
Probably
very
not.
true.
And
Why?
either it does or it doesn't, you know, but you can write the story either way. So
That's
I've
right.
tinkered with this in a bunch of different books. And in the Edge to Center series, the way it works is every time you make a change, you've spun off a new split in reality. And
So you've been doing this a long time. Do you have particular tools you use in your work? I mean, you've got that many books. Do you just write it out? Do you plot it?
Mhm.
Are you a pantser? What method? Do you have tools?
I am, you know, that it's a spectrum, you know, the plotters and the pantsers. And so it's
Hmm.
sort of a spectrum. And I, all the way over on the planner side, I guess would be J.R. Tolkien, you know, all the
30
languages of Middle
years.
Earth, all the three ages of Middle Earth from, you know, the creation all the way through. And then finally we settled down to write a novel. And then but I'm over on the far other side of the spectrum. I don't plan anything. I don't in fact have any idea what the book is going to be like. I write the first sentence and push the gas pedal down and away we go. And it is not a problem. And it just seems to be the way I work. And uh, it's particularly notable when I look at like my Facebook feed and see myself 5 years ago saying, you know, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I've written myself into a corner here, you know, and
And you
I
just
think
keep
I'm going to
going.
go. Well, I just go to bed, and then in the next morning, I'll say, "Wait, I've got it now. I've got it now. We need an explosion. We need a train. The train
Oh,
will roll off
yeah.
the tracks, roll three times into the ravine, and everyone is really unhappy. And then that fixes everything."
Well, there you go. And obviously it works. It works and
Hmm.
it will keep working and we'll keep looking for books from you. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. My screen just
Hmm.
flashed that. So what's next? I know you just came out with one. Have you got another one in the burner already? What's
Yeah, I do. You know, looking at the news of the current day, and there's obviously something wrong with the way democracy is set up in this country. So I'm fixing it. So there has a new set of problems, and my hero's in trouble. He's caught in the gears of this, and he's in trouble.
heroes are always in trouble.
Well, I what my problem is because I'm
That
inventing
gives
this
me hope.
system.
Gives me hope. See,
Yeah, I have to figure out how to have this new democratic system actually make sense. It can't be as Looney Tunes as, say, Hunger Games, you know. It has to
that's
be a
yeah.
little bit more reasonable than that. I want it to be based in the US Constitution and managed in a reasonable way. And it's not going to be like involving fighting with swords in an arena because that's stupid. Say, I will have fixed our
There you
current
go.
issue,
All
right?
right.
The
You
whole new
got
other
it.
issues, but this
I'm
current
waiting
one
then.
I
Let's get it
fixed.
done.
Yeah, I fixed it. It's done. It's just probably not realistic, but it's okay.
You never know. You never know. Okay, your books, they're going to be on DurhamPublishing.com's bookstore. We can find them there.
Mhm,
Of course, they're through Bookview Cafe. We can find you find them all over the place.
mhm.
And we'll be looking
And
for
if
your
you
next
Google
one.
on my name, I'm the first 300 hits that comes up, so it's not hard to find me.
All right, there you go. And we will hopefully see you again. Your next book, do let me know. We'll be sure to take care of it. All right.
Okay, thanks a
All
lot.
right. And until next time, we thank you all for being with us here at Author in the Headlights, sponsored by DurhamandPublishing.com. We'll see you again.